Prepara las palomitas. Está a punto de empezar En Sincronía, el podcast hispanoamericano de traducción audiovisual, con Damián Santilli, Blanca Arias Badía y Guillermo Parra.
Hello everyone and welcome to this special episode of En Sincronía podcast. My name is Guillermo Parra and I'm here with my co-host Blanca Arias Badía. Hello Blanca.
Hi there, how are you?
And Damián Santilli. Hello Damián.
Hi Guille, you have a new role today.
Yeah, I'm being Damián today. So
let's see how it goes.
I think it is difficult to be Damián.
Yeah, I cannot do it better than Damián. I'm sorry. I'll do my best.
Yeah.
So we're here today recording this special episode because, well, in response to our latest interview to Jorge Díaz-Cintas, we interviewed him for episode 46, where we talked in a lot of detail about the brand new subtitling certification, AVTpro. And if you haven't heard about it, or if you don't know the episode, I recommend that you go back to that episode first so that everything makes sense and you listen to this interview later. And well, in that episode, we mentioned a lot of things about the initiative, pros, cons, and he also replied and mentioned in many cases AVTE, the European Association of Audiovisual Translators, as part of his responses to the interview. So we thought that it made a lot of sense to invite someone from AVTE to join us in the podcast to share their views and to elaborate on their points about this certification. So that's why today Iris Permuy is joining us. Hello, Iris.
Hello.
Iris, if you don't know her yet, is an audiovisual translator. She does accessibility as well, and she is the president of ATRAE, the Spanish Association of Audiovisual Translation, and also a representative, a member of AVTE. As I said, the equivalent association, well, in Europe. And well, Iris, if you think, you don't mind, we can go straight to the point and talk about how did AVTE get involved in the AVTpro certification, etc. So whatever you want to explain to us.
Sure. So AVTE got involved in the AVTpro certification way before it got that name. It was really at the beginning. I was not part of the task force back then, but many other members of AVTE Council were, and I believe they were contacted directly by Jorge Díaz-Cintas and Serenella, if I remember correctly, and they were asked, to advise in certain aspects of the certification, the design of the test, the materials, the duration. So AVTE was very much involved in the design of this certification. I don't know if I answered.
That's a great answer. So and when you got involved in you as a person or AVTE as an association got involved in the project, what was your view of the certification of the initiative? So I guess you saw some pros in it, beside the cons that you've published on your statement. But what was the intention behind that collaboration?
Well, a certification, the ideas of a certification can be very attractive to some people because for several reasons. One, for the freelancers, it would mean hypothetically, and this is a word I'm guessing I'm going to use a lot during this podcast. Hypothetically can mean not having to take a lot of tests, like a different test for each company you want to work for or with. And that could be an advantage for the freelancer because it's sometimes some time you're investing in the in the taking of this test, and if you only have to take a test once, that can be very, very appealing. On the other hand, and to me a more important one personally, is the fact that there are minoritized languages that do not have official certificates for translation yet. Like even within Europe, there are some languages that do not have translation studies at the university or even at vocational training or any kind of official training program. So that could be a very nice way of having a certification, could be a very nice way of preventing anyone to enter the industry, but just the people who actually know how to subtitle and how to translate to enter the industry. So mainly, these two aspects were the two main positives AVTE saw in the making of a certification as a possible advantage for freelancers, as well as maybe, as Jorge Diaz-Cintas mentioned several times in last episode, maybe being some kind of leverage for negotiation. So those were the three positive aspects that were acknowledged by AVTE when they decided to become part of the initial team for AVTpro certification design.
That's great to know. Well, in fact, the statement published by AVTE also highlights the fact that they saw the advantage in the certification, but there were different reasons why they decided to retire their support from the initiative. So I guess we can just address the elephant in the room, which are those 4 points in the statement. I think I can even read those points so that you can elaborate on your concerns and explain the reasoning behind that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, perfect.
So you mentioned that AVTpro, with the help of AVTE, should strive to guarantee that translators who have passed the certification will be offered better working conditions by the companies requiring such certification. Jorge said that nobody, even universities, would be able to guarantee, or at least in that direct way, better working conditions. But what would be your objectives on that sense?
Well, we were fully aware that guaranteeing better working conditions is not an easy task. It is an ideal. We understand that. That's why we chose the verb strive to guarantee. Mm-hmm. The thing is, there is zero guarantee at the moment with the AVTpro certification. There are not real and palpable benefits to paying, I think it's 275 euros for a certification that does not guarantee more jobs, better rates, nor better working conditions in general. And yeah, I've heard the argument that the same could be said about translation degrees, except that with a bachelor's degree, you can opt to go into different careers: international commerce, international relations, language teaching. Here in Spain, for example, you qualify for a myriad of exams to become a public servant. A subtitling certification is just that. Plus, at the university, you are taught something. With a certification, you are merely showing what you already know. So those two are not comparable. As per offering better working conditions, that relates very much with the second point AVTE made, that AVTpro should not associate itself with practices such as ultra-low fees, unacceptable deadlines, and trampling authors' rights. Why did we add this point? Because some of these sponsors are infamous for their malpractices. So our main issue with the certification were the sponsors, because we could not, in good faith, back a project that is financed or partially financed by companies that go against all of what we are fighting for. AVTE is a federation of organizations that strive to defend audiovisual translators' rights. So we cannot be in the same project as these companies that some of them pay really low rates, some of them have crazy deadlines, some of them don't credit their translators, some of them are even blacklisted for non-payment. So how can we, a federation of organizations that are all about freelancers' rights, be comfortable associating ourselves with this? And that's a big issue, because not only a certification cannot per se guarantee better working conditions, but also if it's associated, if it's sponsored, not just associated, but sponsored by some companies that are very much against good working conditions, then there is no guarantee. There is no guarantee not only that there are no better working conditions, but no guarantee that we are not benefiting only those companies that do not work with good working conditions.
Mm-hmm. Let me. Complete.
It is important to AVTE. It is important to AVTE to highlight that it's totally understandable that a certification per se cannot in fact and actually guarantee better working conditions. But if you are associated, if you are sponsored by some of your sponsors are companies that are renowned for their malpractices, that is just less than a guarantee for us. It's going against our better judgment. It's going against our own rights. So it was just a conflict of interest in our part.
Okay, let me. I think we're. Yeah, please, Blanca, go ahead.
May I just jump in? It is because, as you know, I'm not part of the initiative, and also I'm a scholar, so I'm not a professional, and in some aspects, to summarize, let's say I'm not a professional. This is a conversation I've had with Damián and Guillermo several times. But let's say I'm not part of the industry now. And one thing that worries me, actually, is the fact that there is no explicit mention of which companies are being referred to. And the fact that this kind of statements are made, and I'm sure, I'm positive that they are true. I'm not contradicting that. I think might, not may, be a bit unfair towards some of the companies that are involved in the initiative. You know, it's like, of course, I'm not defending any of them because I'm not familiar with all of them. But from some comments I've been reading about AVTpro, I think that this generalization about the companies behind it may be a bit unfair towards some of them. Since you say some of them are even blacklisted, and I guess this is public information, I know you are speaking on behalf of AVTE today, and maybe you don't want to do this today, but do you think you could be a bit more specific? Like, is it the majority of the sponsors that are involved in these bad practices that you are mentioning, or is it just one of them, and that's obviously very bad. I'm not saying that is not enough. That is not an enough reason to not support the initiative. But what exactly are we talking about here? If you could be a bit more specific, at least to me, this would be very useful.
I totally understand your point. First of all, I would like to clarify something. You cannot talk about generalization when I specifically said some of the translation companies. So that modifier makes it not a generalization anymore. But I totally understand your issue with the statement. But there is something you cannot lose sight of. Behind professional associations, behind professional organizations, there are professionals. They're freelancers that are very, 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 very bad protected, if at all. I understand it can be unfair for the companies, but I am not going to be very sad about that. Why is that? Because they have all the legal leverage they can have. I don't. The freelancers behind organizations don't. So you can do a quick Google search and you can Google the sponsors for AVTpro plus the word blacklist, and one of them especially is going to pop up really quickly.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
I mean, that's public knowledge. As per the others, I actually work for two of them, and they are not my better paying clients, but they pay enough for Spain, which is not saying a lot, but it's enough for Spain. And for what usually companies in Spain pay, that's what I mean. So it's not that I have, or from AVT, we have reservations about all of the sponsors, but some of them. And some of those reservations are, some of those issues, some of those concerns are really strong. And just, it is complicated to be super specific without, because I am a voice with a name, and I come representing AVT as a member of the council, and I come representing also ATRAE as the president, and also as the representative of ATRAE within AVT. So there is the key issue here is what I said at the beginning. We are very unprotected as freelancers. Companies aren't. And if you're a company that do not incur malpractices, then you have nothing to worry about. If you are a company that does incur in malpractices, unluckily, you don't worry very much either, because there they are, sponsoring this initiative amongst very, very many other things. So, I apologize for not being more clear, but I think we can all agree that this is an unbalanced and unfair situation, and not for the companies.
Mm-hmm. Let me try to comment on a couple of things, because we've been discussing many points at the same time. So I'd like to first make a disclaimer regarding what Blanca was saying, because she said that she's not involved currently in the industry, and we included this disclaimer in the latest episode, but we did that in the Spanish part. So I'd like to take advantage of this second interview to point out that both Damián and me have been involved in the AVTpro certification in some aspects regarding the design of the examination. We have been consulted for that. That being said, we're happy to discuss, of course, many different aspects of it, and we see also your points, Iris. Regarding what you were first saying about better working conditions and how the certification as it's currently launched cannot guarantee that. How would you feel? This is hypothetical as well, but let's think in about the future, in future terms. So how would you feel if some of the platforms that are they're generating so much work in the industry. Let's say, well, we all know the platforms, but Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, HBO, whoever starts asking for that certification to work on some of their high-profile projects. Do you think that would be an advantage for the people who took the certification? Is that something to be desired?
I mean, as you said, this is hypothetical. I cannot answer that. I mean, if this platform started to, well, actually, it's usually not the platforms, but the above all is the middleman. Mm-hmm. Yeah, is the middleman. If the preferred vendors of Netflix, for example, started to ask for this certification, of course, people would want to have such certification, but that's totally hypothetical. Like, for example, in the last episode with Jorge said something that along the lines of, if we manage to get recognition, and some companies, this is a leap of faith.
Yes.
And given the current situation of low rates, the impending doom of artificial intelligence, impossible deadlines, it is a little bit complicated to just, I don't know. I personally, and this is a personal opinion, I have issues with just making this certification as like, what if, this big what if, feeding on the desperation of new translators or translators that are not finding a lot of jobs right now. And they're just the hypothetical promise of maybe someday this certification meaning something. Jorge said, I think we can give leverage that they possibly don't have now. But right now, as it is, de facto, what it is now is it reduces costs for the companies, and that's a fact, but with zero guarantees for the freelancers. So that is my personal issue, and one of the issues AVTE has with the certification. As it is designed now, and with the sponsors it has, we cannot in good faith back this project.
I understand. Couple of things I also want to mention regarding the leap of faith. I kind of feel that with all the changes that are happening right now, kind of working in anything more or less creative is a leap of faith in a way, because we don't know what's going to happen in the next few years. Like, not regarding the certification, I mean in general. Of course, we're trying to do our best. And as with everything, there will be early adopters, so there will be people who jump in and try to benefit from it as soon as possible, with the additional risk of not being benefited as much as hoped. But I guess at some point, if it does work, at some point it would prove beneficial for most people. Otherwise, it won't just it just won't work. It just won't be established in the industry.
Yeah, but let me stop you there. Would it though? Would it prove beneficial? Because it's not enough to get jobs because you have a certification. Those jobs need to be profitable. Those jobs need to be paid according to your value. And that's something that the certification cannot guarantee. And we understand, I repeat, we understand it is pretty much impossible that certification itself guarantees that. But it doesn't facilitate it either. Above all, the way it is financed at the moment. The way it's financed at the moment is just with sponsors that we do not approve of, some of them, and with a fee that freelancers have to pay out of pocket with just this leap of faith. And yes, working in the creative field is a leap of faith. Working in anything at this point is a leap of faith. But on top of that, you're telling me that I have to pay 300 euros. So it is a complicated issue.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I also wanted to mention that despite the sponsors, well, from what Jorge explained in the interview, the sponsors, they contributed to the certification not from the very beginning, but the moment they jumped in, they contributed. But that was to get things going, because it's been a while. As Jorge was saying, it's been 2 years of development, so that obviously requires money. And at that point in time, they weren't receiving any money from the candidates, as nobody was taking the test yet. But hopefully, I mean, that's also one of the reasons why the certification needs to be paid for. Hopefully, with those candidates, it can be self-sustained in a way. Which is also what I wanted to point out regarding the sponsors, which is that even if companies are not sponsoring the certification at the moment, if it proves useful, I believe many other companies could start accepting it. Yeah. To me, it feels like the Netflix guidelines that were just created for Netflix by Netflix, but they were posted online. And at some point, everyone, or maybe not everyone, but many companies that didn't have guidelines decided that they were going to use those because they were available in a way. So even if those companies weren't sponsoring AVTpro, just the fact that the certification exists is going to benefit them in the long run. Those companies and any other companies in the industry. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but again, you're talking hypotheticals, and I'm not here to discuss if this is going to be successful or not, because I don't know. I'm here to just explain the stand of AVTE and why we do not support this initiative. Because here you are not talking about the freelancers at all. You're all the time talking about the companies, and that is our issue. This is designed to help the companies. Here we're just talking about the benefits for the companies. I am interested in the benefits benefits for,
of course,
the freelancers, because that's who I'm representing and that's who I am. So honestly, if it starts to become the norm that every company wants the AVTpro certification, that would be another conversation for another time, when and if that happens. But at the moment, state. I am concerned about.
I was mentioning the companies as a response to the point regarding the sponsors, but obviously, as translators, we're not concerned particularly about companies, of course. We can jump to the third point, actually, from the statement, which says AVTpro and UNA must allow meetings with the final sponsor companies to open a path for direct communication and negotiation. I'd like to point out that in the latest episode, Jorge explained that he would be happy to provide that contact in the context of a translation conference. I don't know, how do you feel about that?
I feel that's not what we asked for. This was discussed lengthily in a couple of meetings, and because we had issues with some of the sponsors, and they said they could not give up their sponsors. We provided several other possibilities of sponsorship, but they were not convinced because they involved universities and they didn't want universities to be involved. So before backing up the project, we said, okay, and before leaving this and before deciding to back this up or not, we offer, as AVTE, I'm talking about as AVTE, we offer another approach. If you cannot or would not give up some of your sponsors that are problematic, then let us meet with them. And that never happened. It just never happened. we wanted, if we were going to be involved in a project with these concerns about the sponsors, at least we wanted to have a direct link with setting sponsors to try and bridge these issues, to try and let them understand our concerns, let them understand what it means when they offer low rates, crazy deadlines, even issues with non-payments, as I've mentioned, and that just it was not responded to in the form of a conference. I mean, yeah, that could be useful, of course. Like everything that can bridge the gap between the middlemen and the freelancers, I'm always for it. But we wanted a direct link with the representatives of the national associations that are part of AVT and the middlemen companies. And that was not provided. And of course, and I'm talking for ATRAE at the moment, from ATRAE, we've contacted a lot of companies and we've contacted a lot of the platforms to try and have meetings with them, basically to offer them an insight into what the working conditions for the freelancers imply. And we've met with several platforms, we've met with some companies, but others simply do not respond because they do not want to have those conversations. I'm guessing, or they are too busy, I don't know, but they do not respond. So it's not that easy for national associations to get in touch with the companies and discuss malpractices or good practices or trying to reach agreements. That is not a possibility in many cases because they just won't hear about it. So we thought maybe this bridge, like AVTpro, could work as a bridge between AVT and these companies. And that possibility was also closed.
I believe from what Jorge was saying that perhaps they didn't feel they were in a position to do that as comfortably as you assume. But again, that's not something I know.
I never assumed it was going to be comfortable. I just know it would have been necessary.
And regarding the last point, AVTpro and UNA must provide total transparency about how the independent board that UNA has set up to run the certification process operates. How do you feel about about the 2 hour long episode that we recorded last time? Do you feel he was more transparent regarding some of your concerns, or do you think there are some things that need to be clarified still?
Sorry, Guillermo, may I ask one question to Iris before this?
Yeah, go ahead.
So Iris, I think you are doing a great job in approaching companies and defending professionals' rights. And I wanted to ask you whether you think, even though now you are clearly closed and against this initiative.
I'm not closed. No. Wait. No. I'm not closed against the initiative.
Not closed. Just against, as it stands now, I understand from the sponsors that it has, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this was my point. So my question is, do you think this, I also think necessary conversation could take place with some of these companies? Let's use this some again, even though we've talked about this. Do you think if this conversation could take place, you would maybe reconsider the position about the certification? I know this is also hypothetical. I know.
This is very critical because this was discussed, as I said, in several meetings with AVT, and specifically Jorge and also Wayne from UNA, Wayne Garb.
Yeah, but I understand they must see now how it is affecting the initiative that an association as important as yours is not backing it up. So I think this the present situation could make them reconsider having this kind of conversation with you. Would you still be open to this kind of conversation, or do you think it's not a right moment for that?
If you've read the AVTE statement, there is no closeness. There is no rejection of the project itself. The problem is how it is conceived, the problem is the 4 points that are. I mean, I feel maybe. Could I just read very quickly the AVTE statement so that people who haven't read it can have the context?
Yeah.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. AVTE, this was released on May 15th this year, 2023. AVTE was approached by Jorge Diacintas and Wayne Garb, representing UNA, a commercial media localization platform, regarding their AVTpro certification initiative. The aim of this project is to provide audiovisual translation and localization companies with a standardized certificate that guarantees professionalism and quality and helps to minimize unqualified practices. For the companies involved, it would mean saving time, effort, and money in designing and implementing their own translation test, while for freelancers, it would be an investment to prove their value and avoid having to take several tests every time they approach a different client. While AVTE sees the value of a certificate and wishes for it to succeed, its board members and a specific task force composed of representatives from the countries Diacintas asked to participate have decided to cease their involvement at the moment. The certification plans currently do not align with the standards previously agreed upon and those advocated by AVTE. One of our main reservations is that some of the main sponsors of the AVTpro certification are companies that consistently seek to exploit audiovisual translators by offering low rates and misusing machine translation, amongst other malpractices. Since the goal of AVTE and all of its member organizations is to defend fair working conditions for audiovisual translators across Europe, we could not in good faith back a project that could potentially be tailored to benefit these reputable middlemen companies, whilst not guaranteeing any improvement of audiovisual translators' working conditions. Over the last few months, AVTE has taken part in a series of discussions and meetings on this project with Jorge Diacintas and Wayne Garb. During these discussions, in which I took part, I was part of these discussions, AVTE representatives repeatedly presented their views to them and did everything they could to contribute constructively to this project. We remain open to further participation in the future, but for AVTE to be involved in an audiovisual translation certification, the end goal of such certification would need to be much more in alignment with the objectives of AVTE. And then
the 4 points that we've read already.
Exactly. And the last paragraph, at the moment, this does not seem to be the case, and that is why we cannot become part of the project as it is. Does that respond to the question?
I like to mention that even though the statement is very clear, and I think it points out the specific issues and is very so it's not closed, and it's leaving the door open for a future collaboration. But from what I observed, it was perceived as going against the certification, which is also which would explain some of the reactions to it as well. But I understand that that's what the statement is saying, and of course, I mean, everything you're saying is in line with that. One of the criticisms as well, not just because of the sponsors, but it has to do with the fact that it's a private initiative instead of a public one. So I wonder if there was a public way of doing this, if there was an entity or an institution or a collection of those that could have supported or launched the project that would make it more sustainable or more fair to translators. How do you feel about this?
I mean, the national organizations should be involved. and AVT should be involved, but of course AVT is only going to be involved if the values and the objectives of the certification are in alignment with what we defend, which is fair working conditions for audiovisual translators. Maybe universities. I don't know. I don't have the answer because this is a complex issue. But I think universities should be involved, and they not only should be involved, they should be very much involved sponsoring, because this comes to at least in the countries it is implemented now. Because another thing is the minority languages, where there is no actual training, as I mentioned before. But in the countries and in the languages, the test, the certification is going to be launched shortly. There are like official training for translators. So the universities in these countries should be very much involved, because this comes to supplement something that they lack. And this is another debate in which I've been personally invested, and AVT has also been invested, and there are some initiatives surrounding this that are very, very nice, which is the disconnect that many universities and some academics have with the professional world. And that's why, after going through official training and bachelor's degrees and master's degrees, some translators still need to prove their worth before entering a company. And I understand why. I totally do. But I mean, this is a lot of food for thought. I mean, companies are always going to need, like, for example, if you go to work for any company that is not as a freelancer, you are going to be interviewed. So for us, the entry level, the entry test, like the translation test we have to take at the beginning of a collaboration, is like our interview. We are not interviewed in character; we are interviewed in skills. So I understand why companies do it. I totally do. But it is true that universities should also train in that sense. Because what Jorge mentioned as well, that sometimes in the university, there is a lack of these very, very practical things that we need, skills that we need when we go out in the world. So if this certification is going to prove the skills of the translators, that is a job for university. And also it's a job for the national organizations to make sure this goes in alignment with what we defend are fair conditions for freelancers. It all comes back to the same thing. We are, as freelancer, unprotected, and we need to protect ourselves.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was thinking now that one of the last things that Jorge mentioned in his interview was that the AVTpro certification just launched in 4 countries and 4 languages, but it will be launching in early 2024. It will be launching in another 4 languages, 2 of which are outside Europe. So it's going to be launching in Latin America, in Latin American Spanish, and also in Brazilian Portuguese. I don't know the state of training and higher education. Well, in Argentina we know because of Damián, but
it's very high, very high.
It's very high.
Yes,
So,
and it's long due, but not just there. I haven't read anything from the local associations yet, but maybe in the future associations in Argentina will also have to say something. We don't have audiovisual translation associations, but we do have translators and interpreters association, which do have a like ATA. They do in the United States. In Argentina, we also have ATI, who has a division, audiovisual translation division, and I haven't read anything from them, but maybe they will. Yes.
No, but Damián, you have Panavat.
Yes, and Panavat as well. Yes. Yeah, so I'm talking about the case of Argentina. Yes. Okay. So Panavat is also supporting the AVTE. It has in the same way.
Well, we have one of our representatives is also a member of Panavat. So we are in conversations with them, but they are not per se a part of AVTE. We are thinking of expanding AVTE to be more than just Europe. At the moment, I cannot say which one is the stance of Panavat, but they were in the last general meeting for AVTE.
Yeah, Latin America. Yeah. Okay, great. Yes. Yeah. So I was talking because Panavat is like a very, very new association, and the association that I mentioned here in Argentina, they do like have over 30 years. So I mean, for us, at least in Argentina, it's not the same case for other countries in Latin America or Brazil. Brazil also has very associations for very, very long time. But since it's not the Spanish Latin American Spanish version is not yet out, so maybe they'll have something to say soon.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I mean, I think many of the points that we're raising here in the interview have to do with waiting and seeing how everything evolves. We are aware, we've understood AVTE's position, and it will be a matter of seeing how everything evolves, how those new languages are implemented, and if perhaps more steps can be made towards achieving those goals and addressing some of those 4 points raised by AVTE, and also in general benefiting everyone involved, and particularly translators. One last thing.
No, because before you asked me about the last point, and I never got to answer the point in transparency. Everything that Jorge said in the episode, he had already said to us. Like, there was nothing new for us in that episode. We had many meetings since I was involved in this task force from October or November 2022, and we had a lot of discussions, and everything was that Jorge mentioned was also mentioned in those meetings. So I saw how he took to heart the issue with transparency, and I had to say, Jorge, if you're listening, it has nothing to do with his transparency. This is nothing personal. It has to do with the whole initiative. It has to do with the sponsors. It has to do with everything. Because for AVTE to be involved, we need to know our best interests as freelancers are taken care of. And it is true that in some of those meetings, there were things that were a little contradictory at some points, but that's normal when you spend hours and hours and hours discussing a topic and you are several people. Sometimes things are said that later on proved to be not possible. For example, the price for the certification was supposed to be lower, but then I guess after a while they made calculations, and there was a little bit of a concern that it was not an independent, as you said, it was not an independent initiative because it was hosted by UNA. We don't have anything against UNA at all. It's just the idea of companies running the show, even though, and the thing is, we were worried about companies running the show, and the argument was always, no, but you are designing the test. That is not our concern. It makes absolute sense that professionals are the ones designing the test and are the ones correcting the test. Like I personally, was offered to be one of the examiners. That makes, but then I decided not to because of conflict of interest because I represent ATRAE, I represent AVTE. I didn't think it was ethical to accept the job. So our concern was not that it wasn't not with the design of the test. We were already involved in that. Like the previous meetings that I was not a part of yet were very much about the design of the test. But that's not running the show. Correcting the test is not running the show. We just needed more communication between all the parts involved. And that's why we asked to talk to the sponsors, etc., etc. Because if the initiative is hosted within a company, there is a very, very high risk that companies' interests are going to be the main goal. And as far as we know, as per now, that is the case, because it clearly reduces costs for the companies that want to accept this, but it does not guarantee anything to the freelancers yet. And for example, Jorge mentioned something about it being that it might be a leverage for negotiation, and actually he mentioned the AVTE survey. For those listeners that don't know, AVTE last year ran a survey that dealt with many aspects of working conditions of audiovisual translation freelancers across Europe, and we published the results earlier this year. And one of the results of this survey said that like clearly there was a significant impact on how much a freelance translator earns, like how high the rates are in correlation with how much they negotiate. So the more you negotiate, the better rates you usually get. That's what the survey said. So Jorge mentioned that it could be a leverage for negotiation, but he did not mention that apparently having more qualifications does not seem to have any significant impact on the rates. So it is to be seen if this is actually going to be any leverage for the freelancers. We just don't know. And because we don't know that, and then we have issues with other things, it's just complicated for us to back it up. If you are interested in knowing the results of the survey, they are public. They can be downloaded as a PDF. But yeah.
And I need to say that they can also, you can listen to episode 44, where we interviewed Christian Nikolic and Esteban, and we discussed that in detail as well.
Yeah. He's great.
And I think we can. Well, I was summarizing, trying to summarize what we were mentioning in the interview, but also I'd like to finish with a question regarding not just the certification, but also what other initiatives or what other things are being done or could be done from the point of view of AVTE to change the status quo in the field, which we can all agree that is not good. It's not as good as we would hope. So what can be done in that on that regard?
I mean, where do I start? I mean, the whole premise of AVTE is changing the status quo in order to preserve or improve working conditions for audiovisual translators. So we are involved in a lot of initiatives. We are in constant communication with several entities. For example, the European Commission. We are in contact with CISAC, with Seattle. We are in contact with FEET. We have regular meetings with Netflix. We do a lot of institutional work for trying to put a stop on a violation of individual property rights. We're actually organizing a whole international conference on intellectual property rights for audiovisual translators next May here in Barcelona. We are part of a lot of initiatives. We're always invited to Translators Europe Forum to talk about, to give workshops and roundtables on several topics. We also are trying to speed up the process of collective bargaining being possible for freelancers, because at the moment it's not in most countries. And then we meet twice a year, all of the representatives. All of the representatives once a year. We try most of the representatives another time a year, to just discuss what has been done at the national level, to be an inspiration for one another, to understand how this country has done that, and if this other country can do the same, or how to improve this that we don't have the grasp of it yet. How did you get, for example, Netflix to pay a copyright when we cannot? Things like that. And then the board, the council meets every week to just keep track of all of the initiatives and all of the meetings and all of the letters and all the manifestos. And we do a lot of things, but usually, above all, when we are talking about institutions such as the European Commission, it takes forever to actually get things done. So it's just little by little, step by step, we are trying to get there.
I mean, that's a positive note to end the interview with. And I think, thank you so much, Iris, for joining us and for sharing your view.
Thank you so much for giving AVTE the space to explain our perspective. And as I said, we are always open to communication, but our main concern is always going to be the well-being and good working conditions for freelancers. That's why we exist. That's what we're here for.
Well, hopefully, candidates or translators in general have all the information, or at least a lot of information to make a decision on whether they're interested in taking the test or not, or whether they feel like waiting to see how things go and how everything evolves. But we're also happy to have been able to share those views apart from social media and trying to be perhaps a little close-minded regarding the pros and cons of this initiative. See you next time, Iris. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas.